And if the US Treasury is looking forward to $3 trillion in tariff revenue over the next decade, all of the evidence so far suggests that in the end, the bulk of it is going to come from US businesses and US households.
The Federal Reserve Bank of New York just confirmed something the government doesn't want you to think about too hard. 90% of Trump's tariffs were paid by Americans. Not China, not Mexico, not the foreign companies everyone was told would foot the bill. You did. And now those tariffs have been ruled illegal by the Supreme Court, meaning billions of dollars in refunds are coming. But here's the question nobody in the media is asking. If you paid the tariffs through higher prices, why are the refunds going back to the corporations? 1 year ago today, President Trump walked into the White House Rose Garden holding an oversized poster board. On it were tariff rates for dozens of countries, some as high as 50%, some higher. He called it Liberation Day. The message was simple and powerful. Foreign countries had been taking advantage of America for decades. These tariffs would make them pay, make them hurt, force them to bring jobs back to American soil. It was one of the most dramatic economic announcements in modern American history. And almost every part of the story told that day turned out to be wrong. Because here is what actually happened over the following 12 months. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York tracked exactly who paid Trump's tariffs using U.S. Census Bureau data and foreign trade statistics. Their conclusion was unambiguous. Between January and August 2025, American firms and consumers paid 94% of the tariff costs. By November, that number had dropped slightly to 86%. Averaged across the year, Americans paid approximately 90% of every dollar collected. Foreign exporters, the supposed targets of this policy, paid roughly 9%. The Treasury Department collected $287 billion in tariff revenue in 2025, a 192% increase from the year before. Almost all of it came from you. And when the White House was asked about this, their response was remarkable. A spokesperson acknowledged that corporate profits had increased during the same period and used that as evidence the policy was working. Let that sink in. How corporations use the tariffs to their advantage. Here is where the story stops being about trade policy and starts being about something your channel covers every week. Corporate exploitation hiding behind a political narrative. When tariffs raised the cost of imported goods, corporations had two choices: absorb the cost or pass it on to consumers. Most chose to pass it on, and then some. Procter & Gamble announced price increases on diapers and skincare products. General Mills raised prices on cereals. McCormick raised prices on spices. Dozens of consumer brands used the tariff announcement as cover to raise prices, in some cases beyond what the tariffs actually cost them. This is the same playbook used during COVID-19 inflation, what economists called greedflation, a real cost increase used as justification for a larger price increase than the cost warranted. And it worked, because when a government policy gives you political cover to raise prices, consumers have nobody to blame but the policy. Meanwhile, the broader economy told a revealing story. Goldman Sachs found that by August 2025, businesses had absorbed 51% of tariff costs and passed 37% to consumers. But that ratio was shifting as businesses began passing more and more of the burden downstream. The average American household paid an estimated $1,000 more in 2025 directly because of the tariffs. Small businesses paid even more. The typical small business importer paid an average of $25,000 more per month from April through September 2025 compared to the same period the year before. Corporate bankruptcies reached their highest level since 2010, and through all of it, corporate profits increased. Then in early 2026, something extraordinary happened. The Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that Trump's sweeping tariffs were unconstitutional. The court found that Trump had exceeded his authority, that the taxation power clearly belongs to Congress, not the president. The tariffs imposed under emergency powers legislation were struck down, which means the government now owes refunds. Estimates from the Penn-Wharton budget model put the total refund figure at $175 billion, $175 billion. And here is where the story turns into something that should make you genuinely angry. Thousands of corporations have filed lawsuits against the Trump administration seeking those refunds. They argued, correctly, that they paid tariffs that were illegally imposed. But here's the question nobody is asking loudly enough. Those companies raised their prices to cover the tariffs, meaning consumers already paid. The money moved from your wallet through higher prices for groceries, diapers, cars, electronics, into corporate revenue. Now those same corporations are getting $175 billion back from the government, and almost none of them are giving it back to you. Researchers contacted 18 major companies, including Lululemon, Dollar General, and Crocs, that publicly stated they had raised prices due to tariffs and are now suing for refunds. Not one responded to questions about whether they would pass refunds back to customers. Not one. The only major retailer that pledged to return value to customers was Costco, and even their CEO said it was unclear how much they would receive or when. $175 billion, collected from consumers through higher prices, being refunded to corporations. Now step back and look at what just happened from 30,000 feet. The government announced tariffs that were sold as punishment for foreign countries. Corporations used those tariffs as political cover to raise prices beyond the actual cost increase. American families paid an estimated $1,000 more per household in 2025. The tariffs were ruled illegal. Corporations are receiving $175 billion in refunds. Consumers are receiving nothing. And the official White House response to all of this, delivered with a straight face, was that corporate profits increasing proves the policy worked. This is not a story about trade policy. It is not a story about Democrats versus Republicans. It is not even primarily a story about Donald Trump. It is a story about who the economic system is actually designed to protect. When prices go up, consumers pay. When policies are reversed, corporations collect. The risk flows down, the rewards flow up every time. And the reason this works, the reason it keeps working, is that the story gets told as a political fight between two parties. Tariffs versus free trade. America first versus globalism, red versus blue, while the actual transfer of wealth from your grocery bill to a corporate balance sheet happens quietly in the background. That is the controlled narrative. 1 year after Liberation Day, here is what we actually know. Foreign countries paid roughly 9 cents of every dollar in tariffs. Americans paid the rest. The tariffs were illegal. The refunds are going to corporations. And when those corporations were asked whether they would pass any of that money back to the consumers who actually paid it, they didn't even answer. The question wasn't hard. They just didn't feel the need to respond. Because in the system as it currently exists, they don't have to. This is controlled narrative. Subscribe. The next video goes deeper.